The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. Want to remind all of you that we will be live for the next 2 hours. I know that a lot of you have a lot going on today. There's some inclement weather across the United States, and we hope that you can stay with us as long as you can. We are not going to be giving weather updates, so make sure that you're in a situation where you know what's happening so that if you need to do something different that you can. But we are going to talk a little bit later on today about things that we can do to prepare ourselves and our kids for when we're in stressful situations where you don't necessarily have options of leaving or going someplace else and there's sensory things going on. So we are going to talk about that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how much you've watched the weather in the last couple days, there's not going to be any sandy updates here. But I hope that you're all well and safe and that you have food and the things that you need for regardless of what comes in the coming hours. We're thinking of you and we're praying for everybody and hoping that everybody gets through this safely. What we are going to talk about here, though, is autism and how we can be the most effective, efficient members of a team working with a child on the autism spectrum to help them to reach their full potential. And for those of you who are tuning in who are teenagers and young adults on the spectrum, because I know your numbers and our viewership are growing, we also want to help you to be able to find ways that you can remove obstacles from your life, because you're at a point where you can start to see things and say, how can I help myself? A lot of what we talk about here, we talk about ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis. There's really good reasons why we talk about it so much. It's the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. And by the way, and I always kind of gloss over this at the beginning of the show, but it has been proven to be effective with all of our kids on the spectrum in creating progress. Yes, everyone does not get to the same place because everyone comes with different skill sets, everyone comes with different deficits, everyone is individual and different, but everyone can achieve progress. And by the way, that's not just our kids on the autism spectrum. ABA was not invented for autism. It's an age-old science that actually looks at behavior in a very systematic way that allows us to be able to change behavior, increase behaviors we want to see more of, decrease behaviors we want to see less of, and that is true for all living organisms, us included. Don't have to be on the spectrum to get the benefits of ABA. But it's a huge, huge area with lots of things to talk about. And because we're dealing with individuals, it's really about getting the knowledge and the tools and then applying them in creative ways for ourselves and for our kids. So we talk about that a lot, but we talk a lot about everything else under the sun that has to do with autism, right? And this show is meant to be interactive. We're hoping to hear your voice in this conversation. There are lots of ways that you can get in touch with us. Our technical director, who is fabulous, is going to cycle through some of those on the screen for you. I'm going to remind you that if you want to watch us live, the only place you can do that right now is on autism-live.com. If you are joining us on autism-live.com, you will see that there is a box box that says Shannon is answering right now. If you type into that box, it shows up magically right here on my screen in real time. I can have a conversation with you, and you can talk to our guests. You can pose questions of guests that you haven't seen on the show and say, hey, I want you to have this person on and I want you to ask them this, and we will do our level best to get them on here to talk about those kinds of things. I'm pretty tenacious. Sometimes it takes me a while, but I listen when you guys say what you need, and it's important to me because I am not an expert in ABA, not an expert in autism. I am an autism mom. My son was diagnosed at the age of 2.5. He's 9. He's fantastic, and he was very profoundly affected, and I wondered if I was ever going to hear Mommy, I love you, or if I was ever going to be able to have a conversation, and we have brilliant conversations. We had an earthquake over the weekend. We're not having Sandy, but we had an earthquake over the weekend, and I was with my son when it happened. It was very interesting. He has been in other earthquakes before. This was probably the biggest one that he's been in. He doesn't remember the other ones that he has been in because they were so long ago. So this is the first real memory of an earthquake. It was very interesting to see if our emergency, even though he hadn't remembered being in the other ones, he remembered the behaviors because we had rehearsed what to do. So I was very, very thrilled to see that. But again, a little bit later on in the show, we're going to talk about things we can do to be emergency prepared. I know some of you are in emergencies right now, and a lot of us aren't. Really important that we get there before the emergency if possible. But hopefully we'll have some interesting, for those of you who are watching, who are in the middle of Sandy, hopefully we'll have some interesting things to perhaps help you ride this out. Let's hope. Okay, we always like to start the morning with something that we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. I'm so thrilled today. We decide these things months in advance, but it has this eerie ability of working out on the day when I really feel the need to talk about something or there's something happening in the world. So today's jargon is ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis. Let's take a look. And our actual definition for that is applied behavior analysis, the application of the principles of learning and motivation from behavior analysis. It employs procedures and technology derived from scientifically demonstrated principles of behavior to increase socially significant behaviors and decrease unwanted or inappropriate behaviors. Okay, but as I said before, let's look at our working definition: a proven method of increasing or teaching desired behavior and reducing unwanted behavior. All right, the reason why I'm so in love with the fact that we're going to talk about this today is because over the weekend, somebody said something to me, and they said, well, we know that ABA has been so effective with your child. This is a person I love and adore. We know that ABA has been so effective with your child, and I'm a big fan of ABA, but you know, a lot of people aren't. This is what was said to me. And I said, well, there's a lot of people that have misconceptions. And the thing that was said was, well, a lot of people just don't think it's as effective, and that maybe it's not effective for some people. And to me, those are fighting words, right? And I said, that is misinformation. I'm just going to tell you, and it saddens me because you're somebody who's in my life, and it means that I have not done my job properly. That is misinformation. And I do think that when we talk about autism awareness, this for me is right up there, because imagine living in a world, and we all can, right? Because we do this on a daily basis, living in a world where people thought there is nothing that will help an infection. There is nothing that will do that. And you were sitting there with penicillin and trying to say to people, but wait a second, this will help. And that they were saying, I don't know. I know it worked in your house, but I'm just thinking it's not going to work in my house, so I'm not going to do it. And the frustration that I feel when this happens, I want everybody to realize, everybody within the sound of the scope and the sound of my voice, so that we can all be those foot soldiers who go out and remind everybody else. There is no more debate. There really isn't. We know that ABA is effective. That doesn't mean we're stopping there. There's other things to be researched. There's other things to look at how to make ABA more effective. Are there things that can go with ABA that companion-wise make it that much more effective? There's still a lot more research to be done, right? But that doesn't change the fact that the research has already been done, and there are hundreds of studies that show that ABA is effective in creating progress with all of our kids. But there are prescriptive amounts that are important to hit. Just like taking that penicillin, we wouldn't want to give a half of a penicillin pill, and if we did, we certainly couldn't sit there and say, well, that wasn't effective. Progress is available for everyone. The jury has come back. This conversation should be over. It's not, because there are still people who don't know. But my big thing that I said the other day was, this isn't just coming from me. If it weren't shown to be effective, do you honestly think that insurance companies would start paying for it? Like, how on earth do you think this is happening without that? So I hope we're all clear, because first of all, you know, if we're the ones that are having kids on the spectrum, we've got to be clear. Teachers have got to be clear, and I fear that they are not. For those of you who are young people who are on the spectrum, I want you to be clear that if there's something you wish you could do that you're not having an easy time with, and by the way, this is whether you're on the spectrum or not, ABA is something that you can use to help you to be more effective at the thing that you want to do, or remove the obstacles that are preventing you from doing the thing you want to do. And so I think it starts with us. We have to know this first and foremost, but then any opportunity that we have to talk to someone else and say, yes, this is effective. I hope you'll all take the opportunity, because I just see this, you know, I sometimes I feel like I'm tilting at windmills, and it's frustrating, but people need to know that ABA is effective. It has been proven. Over 100 studies. And anybody who tries to tell you, oh, well, you know, they're not sure, it just isn't the case. It just isn't the case. In this world of information and instant information on the internet, it pains me that there are still people out there who don't know the facts. But again, that does not mean that anybody is stopping. In fact, this is the point at which we surge on, make sure that the playing field is level and that more kids get access to this, and that we find the things that work with ABA, and we find the ways to make ABA even more effective so more of the kids make more progress. Nobody giving up. We got a comment here. Why is ABA such a secret among professionals and parents? I mentioned it at a support group meeting for parents of children in the spectrum, and only one other parent had heard of it. Well, first of all, I want to say to you, congratulations, because you saying that hopefully is the beginning of changing a whole lot of people's lives. I don't know why it is such a secret amongst professionals and parents. I suspect, we talked about this a little bit the other day, that for a long period of time, even after the research was there, that there are a bunch of people, professionals, who have this idea that they don't want to make us feel bad. They don't want to make the parents feel bad. And so since only if you give them the right amount, science has shown us, if you give the right amount at the right time, that roughly, it's 47%, so I would say roughly 50, but let's be accurate here. Roughly, you know, 47, some of them have shown 46, some of them have shown 49, average. 47% of the kids will show no signs of autism that can be documented as an autism spectrum disorder within a short period of time, relative short period of time, 2 years. If it's given in the right amount at the right time. It's expensive, and so a lot of people couldn't afford it and they didn't have access to it. And so there are a whole bunch of professionals who were like, well, don't burden the parents with knowing that there's something out there that they can't afford and they can't get. I just want to scream. I don't know about you, but I just want to scream and go, don't decide what I can handle and what I can't handle. Don't decide what I'm capable of and what I'm not capable of, because I have a car. And if it's someplace I could drive to it, was my sort of feeling about it. Obviously, not everybody can, but I would rather know than not know. And there are a whole lot of people that say, well, and not everybody's going to get that result. And so for parents to, upheave their financial lives and maybe they don't get that result, they still get progress. Don't decide for me is my thing. So I think that the biggest reason is because it's expensive and time consuming, and so people haven't wanted to talk about it. But we need to talk about this. We know Surgeon General said over a decade ago, this is the gold standard of treatment for autism. And we need to tell people that. We need to stop letting them tell us. We need to tell them. So congratulations to you for saying it at a meeting, because one other parent knew it, and at least one parent, I'm just going to hope and pray, left that meeting and said, I need to find out more about that. And that's life-changing, not only for that parent, but every parent that parent talks to. I meet so many people who say, I have a 15-year-old and I didn't know about ABA, and my heart bleeds for them because it's horrible. I know that the reality was that even if they had known about it 10 years ago, chances are they might not have had access to it. But that is changing. And for people who have little kids now, I can't live with the idea that 10 years from now somebody's going to say to me, I didn't know, while we're all trying to scream it from the rooftops. And somebody else says, I blame it on insurance company. I blame insurance companies who said it was experimental for years to get out of paying for it. Yeah, I've got a little resentment there too. I'm going to be with you on that. Just a little resentment on that, which I, say to myself, okay, can't change what happened in the past, but yes. And there are some class action lawsuits about that very thing for several different insurance companies that are being sued because parents are saying, hello, this is what you said and this is what you knew. Do the math and start paying money, but there isn't enough money, right? There isn't enough money to make up for that. Oh, I'm on a soapbox today. But I'm with you on that. And fortunately, this is no longer the case. Yep, there are still some insurance companies that aren't paying for it, but, we're going to put the screws to them and make them pay for it because they need to. They need to. All right, I've gone off. The train is already off the rails. It's only Monday morning and we're only at 10:20 here. All right, we need to get to our question of the day because I think this is going to be a really interesting topic this week. Every day we ask you guys a question. We hope that you'll answer on Facebook, you'll tweet in, you'll call in, you'll Skype in. Our question today is, what inflexibility issues does your child have? Because we're only 2 days away from Halloween, right? We're just like this up against it. And a lot of you are in different situations today and in the next couple of days with what's going on in your home. And boy, is it time to talk about inflexibility. Because when our kids need to do it one way and it can only be that way, or there's huge stress, what are we going to do when we can't have it be that way? And sometimes it's because of Halloween, and sometimes it's because you're having an earthquake, and sometimes it's because you have a hurricane, and sometimes it's just because there's traffic, or sometimes it's because they don't have the thing that your child wants to eat at the store, right? I mean, these issues come up again and again and again. So love to know from you guys today, and we'll try to check in a little bit later on Facebook to see what inflexibility issues does your child have. I have to say that my child is probably less inflexible than I am. Can I admit that? And have you not think less of me? In fact, he and I got into a conversation a little over a year ago where I was saying to him, I had been asking him to do something a certain way, and it was driving me crazy that he wasn't. And I said, I just need you to do it this way because I asked you to do it this way. And he was doing it another way. And he said, well, why? And I said, because I need you to do it this way. And he said, Mom, do you have autism? And I was like, oh, okay. Right? So he's that way because he used to have lots of inflexible issues. I mean, man, before he had the ability to talk about it, I just wouldn't know. He'd have a meltdown because I hadn't done it a certain way. And I certainly see it with other kids. You know, we've had play dates and had kids come over for lunch, and I can remember when he was really little that there was 2 little girls who would come over, and you had to slice the sandwich one way as opposed to the other way, or they could not eat it, right? And those were kids who were not on the spectrum. So, so very interested, and I see somebody's already writing in, and I can't wait to talk about this. But let's talk about what our topic of the week is. Our topic for this entire week is flexibility for us and for our kids, because it starts with us and it goes to them. And how do we make this work? How do we work on these things? Because we're going to be asking them, if we're not already asking them today, to be flexible on Wednesday. We're going to flex those rules on Wednesday. Yep, we're going to go up to total strangers and ask them for food that we're going to stick in our mouth. Different set of rules for a different day. And how do we achieve that for ourselves, and how do we achieve that for our kids? Some of the different things that we're going to do in just a minute. We're going to do our stress tip, and we're going to talk about being prepared for emergencies. We have a brand new A word, and today, even though it's Monday, we're having Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy today, because normally we have that on Wednesday, and I will not be here on Wednesday. We won't be doing live shows for Halloween. But Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson, my partner in Let's Talk Autism, I was going to say partner in crime, but that's not really right. But my partner during that hour, Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson, the executive director of Autism Care and Treatment Today, which, by the way, they are in the last 2 days here of a grant phase. If you need a grant for anything, today is the perfect day to get on there, fill out the application. You do need some paperwork, but you could be eligible for a grant. So many families have been helped by this wonderful organization. So Nancy's going to be here with me in just a little over half an hour. We're having a guest that we've had on before, Elaine Hall, Coach E. You probably remember her from Autism the Musical. And she was with us a couple of months ago and talking about this big conference that's happening actually on Thursday of this week. And she's bringing in a couple of individuals with her, young people who have autism spectrum diagnoses. And we're really excited that they're going to be here with us in the studio. So especially if you have older kids, this is going to be a great show to watch. Or if you're planning on your kids getting older at some point, which I am definitely planning to have a child who's older in the future. Great things that we're going to hear from them today. All right, so that is our show for today. Really excited about that. We're going to take a break, come back and do stress, and then we're going to, you guys have been writing in, and we're going to talk about some of the things you guys have been writing in on. Keep writing in. We'll be right back.
My son,
my brother,
my daughter is one of the
1 in 88 children
on the autism spectrum.
I have autism.
I have autism,
I have autism,
And I want you to see me as an individual.
and not as a label.
I want to find out why my brother has autism.
I want the government to say that
Autism is a public health crisis.
I need to know who will take care of my child when I'm gone.
I want to know what treatments.
What solutions are out there for my child?
We need insurance reform in all 50 states.
I want autism to be an unavoidable topic for those running for office this fall.
I want my students to be
safe in school.
I want the bullies to leave me alone.
Autism Speaks encourages all Americans to ask candidates, how will you make a difference for those living with autism?
I want a Senate,
A president, a Congress that recognizes autism
as an urgent public health
Crisis it is.
I want our lawmakers to listen.
Make your voice heard this election. Visit autismvotes.org.
Welcome back to Autism Live. It's that time of the week when we talk about stress. And we know that stress is a part of this journey, not only for us and our entire family, but for our child. It can be so stressful. We're always talking about how to get ahead of it, right? Like we do with some of our children's behaviors, that we talk about that antecedent modification. How can we stay ahead of a tantrum or a meltdown? Well, how can we stay ahead of stress and anxiety for ourselves and for our kids? I mentioned that a lot of you are having inclement weather right now. Hurricane Sandy is bearing down some of us on the other side of the coast here. The other side of the country. On this coast, we had an earthquake the other day. Things happen in a daily life, right, that throw everything off, really changes how we're going to work things, and it can be very stressful for us, and it can be very stressful for our kids. And once our kids' stress goes up, guess what happens to ours, right? No brainer. Ours goes, woohoo, I got that, and I can beat you with that, right? I'm winning the stress war. So how can we help ourselves antecedent modification-wise for those kinds of events? And literally it can be anything. It could be a hurricane. It can be an earthquake. It can be that you just don't have the materials that you needed to be able to do something today. So what can we do? One of the things, especially when my son was little, I had a friend who she did not have children on the spectrum, but I saw this really cool thing that she did in her house. Every time, this time of year in particular, in the fall, after all the back to school sales, there's a bunch of backpacks that tend to go on clearance. And maybe they're not the best backpacks, maybe they're not the most interesting ones, but they can get downright inexpensive. And what she would do is buy a couple of extra backpacks every year because things changed with her kids every year. And she had a backpack that was for her car that was just, if we're in the car and we get stuck someplace because the car isn't working, that there were sensory toys. And mind you, this was a woman who did not have children on the spectrum, but there were sensory toys, like little fidget toys for the kids to play with. There were comic books when they were younger and other books when they were older. There were things, snacky things that were non-perishable. So things that were granola bars that were appropriate for their diet. And even a couple of bottles of water that were in this bag so that if she got stuck someplace, if she got a flat tire or something like that, that there was something for the kids to play with, something to snack on, something to drink. And I thought that was really, really clever, but in and of itself. But she had a bag for every occasion. Like there was a backpack just for when they were going to swim lessons. There was a backpack for the car, as I said. There was a restaurant backpack. So when they went to a restaurant, there were specific things. You know, a lot of places you go to a restaurant and you sit down and they bring out some sort of placemat and the kids can do crayons. But I don't know about you, in the early days of autism, my son, you know, the crayon was something you stuck in your mouth. And then later on, you know, it was almost like, you know, night and day difference. Then it was he could breeze through that placemat and then he had nothing to do, right? And before we moved on to technology, you know, we had to have something else to do. So she would have a little bag that could go into the restaurant that just had toys that they didn't get to play with any other time, you know, little wind-up toys. We put one together for my son because it was the only way that we could go to a restaurant. So we had lots of little wind-up toys that didn't make a lot of noise because you have to be really careful that in a restaurant you're making, you know, but we used to have, there were little silly putty eggs so that he could play with the putty, and I had wipes in the bag so that I could wipe his hands off before we ate. Those kinds of things which would make it so that my husband and I could actually enjoy a meal. And then we didn't have to be in this stressed out thing. But this woman, she had a backpack for every occasion. And she just kept the backpack and she labeled all of them, and she had a hook inside her door where, you know, for all the different things that they were going to do. One of the kids was taking karate, so there was the karate backpack. So she would just change the backpacks out, throw it in the car, put it back, and everything was all together. There was a backpack to go to grandma's house. There was a backpack for, you know, my hallway isn't big enough for all those backpacks, but what we did do, what I took from it, was what makes sense for my kid. So we had a little bag for the restaurants, just a little, my mom made him a little zipper bag and he called it his zipper bag, and he could take that to a restaurant and it had those toys in it. And we had a bag for the car that had some stuff in it in case of an emergency, and Dad had one and Mom had one. And then we had a bag for going to clinic, because a lot of time, you know, we were either in the car, or we were, the few times that we went out to a restaurant, or we were in the car to go to clinic here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And so we had toys in the car on the way here and on the way back, and a snack for on the way back because he would be pooped. It really helped him. And eventually when he went to kindergarten, we had a bag that was for the teacher in case of something happening at school that had food in it because he has a very specific diet, GFCF, and a whole bunch of other things. So there was a bag with non-perishable things, which was not easy to find, let me just say, but non-perishable things in the bag for the kindergarten teacher, and some fidget toys so that if something were to happen and they would be, heaven forbid, on lockdown for a while, if his stress started to go up, that they would be comfort things for him. And I'm seeing that it would be beneficial for weather if we had something like that already together. Now, for those of you who are in it today and you're afraid that, because the other thing is technology, right? As the kids get old enough to play with technology, and really you can start very young with technology, it takes a lot off. Now, when we go anyplace, he has his DS bag and mom and dad have phones that are hopefully charged so that, you know, but when all that dies, you have to have stuff for them to do. Be creative. Be as creative as you can be, that if your technology, your batteries die and the power goes, remember the good old days when we used to make tents with blankets, when we played with cards that were real cards, you know, get the board games out, get the flashlights out. You can play shadow puppets with the flashlights, but stay ahead of the anxiety. Keep your kids busy. As stressful as this is, it might be a great time to, I wouldn't say let's work on flexibility. You're going to be forced to at some point, but it's a great time to connect. Think about the kinds of things that soothe your child. Maybe your child likes to be touched. Maybe your child likes to be sung to. Maybe your child likes to be read to. Or maybe your child doesn't like any of those things. What are the self-soothing things that you can do to soothe your child? What are the things that your child likes to do to soothe? Of course, we don't know how many days, you know, some of you may be without power, but I would encourage you to take it minute by minute, and this is an opportunity to, if there's something your child needs to do to self-soothe, allow yourself some flexibility to allow them to soothe themselves. So if they need to rock, you know, let them. If they need to yell, get them a pillow. Teach them how to yell into a pillow. If they need to do some sort of stereotypy to soothe themselves, this would be the moment in which you wouldn't try. You can try to distract, but don't take things away from them to soothe them while it's a real stressful situation. Keeping our stress at a level that we can handle it. Really super duper important. Okay, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk about some of the things that you guys have written in about inflexibility. Don't forget, at the top of the hour, Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, with our special guest, Elaine Hall, and two really important VIPs that she's bringing with her, some young people that I think you'll find very interesting. Stick with us.
Autism used to affect 1 in every 10,000 children. Now it affects 1 in every 91 kids.
TACA is one of 5 organizations helping families living with autism today.
Our kids came back to life. There's a whole community out there, and now we're a part of it.
Oh, TACA has a place for me.
To find TACA, go to www.tacanow.org.
Please.
Welcome back. You guys have been writing into the show already this morning. We've been talking about flexibility, and we're going to talk about it all week long. Somebody wrote in and said, we had a holiday party this weekend for all of the children in my daughter's 2 special needs classes and their classmates. There were a lot of issues of inflexibility. One boy pushed his sister because he told her not to touch a window, and she did. Overall, everyone was pretty flexible when given lots and lots of options. I have to say, too, we went to on Friday, we went to 2 parties, and they were not, it was complete mixed bag. The first party, like I want to say my child was the only person with a diagnosis, but honestly, I have no way of knowing that. But it was, the first party was a birthday party, and my guess is that the vast majority of the kids that were there were typically developing. And it was fascinating. It was just fascinating. And you want to talk about inflexibility and flexibility. It was a really interesting, because it was kids that were like 10 to 13, that sort of tween kind of age. And it was a costume party. So there were a lot of people in costumes, and I was watching to see who was having which problem with what with their costume. And for some kids, it was sort of setting them free, and other kids, it was making them, like they were pulling and tugging at things. And but there was a moment when the kids there was a haunted house at the party, and a bunch of kids were playing in the backyard. And I was watching to see, sort of my task for the party was to see how do kids this age interact with each other so I could help my son to fit in better. He was having a specifically hard time because most of the kids who were at the party go to school together at a school that he doesn't go to. So he's a friend of one of the kids, and his entire class was there. And so he was kind of struggling because they all knew each other. And so I was watching another girl who was there who also isn't at the school, and watching to see how she negotiated it, because she's neurotypical, and it was just very interesting to me. But I was standing there at one point and watching the kids in the backyard, and I thought, I wouldn't have been good at this. It was crazy to see how the kids were interacting with each other, that they were just running around and doing all kinds of things. And then one kid would pick up a football and say, "Somebody catch this," right? And they would throw it and nobody would catch it. And so they would go, "Huh, okay," and run off and do something else. And somebody would scream and say, "Let's all run over here," and two kids would run. It was mayhem. And I thought, this is like one big improvisation exercise where the rules are being changed constantly. I don't know how any of them manage it. But as I was watching, I was seeing that really there were only like one or two kids who were actually good at it. The rest of them were having this kind of, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. And then they would just run off and do something. Fascinating in terms of flexibility. How is anybody supposed to be that flexible? I just don't know. But there were a lot of, as you say, these things about, somebody saying, somebody would just lay down these rules. And again, neurotypical kids, for the most part, I assume, and saying, "Oh, well, you can't do this." And then the person would do it, and there would be mayhem and people saying, "Hey, you can't do that." And then they would all, I think the difference between this and if I was there with a bunch of kids who weren't typically developing was that once somebody broke the rules and then they had a little about it, then it was over. And it didn't get brought up the rest of the party. Whereas I suspect if my son had been involved in it, he would have kept bringing it up, right? Fascinating. Okay, somebody else says, "I got my daughter a mermaid costume. She didn't like the way it restricted her movement, so I got to be flexible and hike it up so that she could still play soccer. She's the only mermaid in soccer cleats and running shorts." Isn't it fascinating? Because I do think it's as much about us being flexible as it is our kids. My son, we've crossed over into when he no longer wants to be the cute and cuddly things, which is a big bummer for me. And it's the first Halloween in which I had to buy fake blood, okay? We've crossed into that. He wanted to be the Terminator. We didn't end up putting the fake blood on, and I'm not going to put the fake blood on because we didn't need it. I got a little prosthetic piece that goes on his cheek and one that goes on his neck that shows the skin being pulled away and there being metal underneath. And, it was a big deal to him, and he helped put the whole costume together. And I didn't want to put spirit gum on his cheek, so I read up on the internet that you can adhere those kinds of things on with Caro syrup. Still not my favorite thing, but a lot less chemically than the spirit gum. So we put it on his cheek and we put it on his neck, and we got in the car to go across town to the first party. And he was so uncomfortable. The thing on his neck was driving him crazy. And there was a minute in the car where I found myself arguing with him, saying, "But, we got it and you need to wear." And then I went, what on earth am I doing? And I said, absolutely take it off. Take it off. Let's not even deal with that. You need to be comfortable at the party. Do you want to take the other one off? You know, you really don't have to have them. How do you want to be? And he was like, oh, thank goodness, took it off and had a great time the rest of the party. There were different elements. There were goggles that, you know, he would take off from time to time and then ask to put them back on. And I just had to remind myself, it isn't about the big picture of how great does the costume look. It's about them having a good time. And, you know, I'm with you. You know, you think about this, the mermaid thing, and you go, well, you know, cleats but it's what they want. It's what they want. So it is as much about our flexibility as it is anything else. Okay, I've got another one here. My spouse and I tend to disagree on what to do for our child. I want to try as much as possible, and he wants her to be mainstreamed as much as she can be. I'm all for mainstreaming, but she's too far behind, and I'm afraid she would get teased and bullied too much. I'm working on getting ABA paid for by insurance, but I want my husband to get more involved with helping me to help her. You know what? And this one is a tough one. I loved, we had Evelyn Gould, who's going to be with us tomorrow again. She was in here a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about what to do when one parent is on one page and another parent is on the other page, because it happens a lot. And one of the things that Evelyn said was, well, of course it happens. Of course it happens. This is a very huge, important thing that involves all these different things. And just in the law of probability, how likely would it be that two parents would have the exact same emotions and the exact same opinions about something as vital and crucial that has this many components? And I thought about it, and I was like, oh my goodness, she's right, isn't she? And that I, personally, probably still have an expectation that my husband and I are going to agree about everything. And we don't, because how could you? It's so much better now than it used to be in the first beginnings of autism. My husband and I couldn't have been on more separate pages, because I said, I think we're looking at autism, and he said, I just really don't think so. And would get mad when people would suggest, before we actually had the diagnosis. And he and I deal with things in different ways. We just do. I'm a very strong personality. So my husband tends to, defer to me on a lot of occasions, but not always. And I think back to when Holly Robinson Pete was here, and when she talked about the page that her husband was on, and how she finally said to him, look, you need to get this much on the page with me, or else, kind of discussion, and that her feelings now, she says, I wish that I had been more compassionate. But that, in the moment, she was as compassionate as she could be. The thing that I would say to you is find the way for you guys to be able to talk about what you're feeling and what your fears are and what your hopes are without judgment as much as possible. Oh, it's a huge, it brings tears to my eyes thinking about what a huge task that is on a daily basis for all of us. But something that my husband and I always say, and believe me, minute by minute, day by day, we aren't always able to do this, but that in this battle, if you will, to get the services that your child needs, to get the help that they need, and to figure out what exactly that is, that you have each other, and that you cling to each other like you're clinging to each other in a rainstorm. And that doesn't mean you're not going to disagree, but lean into each other, as opposed to pulling away from each other every minute that you can. It's not going to be possible all the time. But if you say, what are your fears? What are your concerns? I hear from you that your concern is that she's too far behind to be mainstreamed because the kids will bully and tease her. And I have to say that you as a parent know so much better than anybody else what your child can take and what your child can't take. But there is a part of me that goes, that stinks. that I believe me, I hear you on this, but as a parent, being on the outside, because I don't have the emotions to deal with that you do, but it stinks that other kids and the teachers or the administrator's ability to be able to protect your child would mean that your child wouldn't get the opportunity to do fill in the blank. That, to me, makes me mad at them, not mad at you at all. Because I understand the desire to protect and preserve and keep our kids safe and to shelter them from other people's meanness. But I also don't want to have my child penalized because they can't get it together. And I'm just wondering, what would it take for you to feel comfortable for your child to be mainstreamed? Would it be that part of the day because I think you said she, would it be that part of the day that she had one-on-one instruction to help her to get caught up? Would it be that you had some assurance, like sky's the limit here? What would it take for you to feel comfortable? Because what I don't hear is you saying that it wouldn't help your daughter in some ways. All the things that I hear that are the negative are things that if people were doing their jobs would not be the case. And I get it that sometimes they don't. But what would it take for you to be comfortable? Is my big question for you. I'm not saying you should mainstream her. Please know, I defer to your gut on this. But what would have to change for you to be in a place where you felt not only comfortable but thrilled about your daughter being mainstream? That's my big question for you. And hopefully you'll have an opportunity to think about that and write back and tell us. It doesn't have to be today. It could be 2 weeks from now. But in any case, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and look at some of your answers to the question of the day, which was, what issues does your child have with inflexibility? So we'll be checking that out on Facebook. If you haven't written in, now's a great time to do it. Stick with us.
Hi, I'm Bryce Myler, and I'm the Contracts Director for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I've been here for about 5 years. CARD has several employees with many years of insurance experience, dealing with insurance, dealing with pre-authorizations, dealing with discovering whether there's coverage or not. So we have more experience than any ABA provider that I've ever come across. So for a prospective client, somebody that may be interested in, ABA therapy and what CARD has to offer, we have a special 800 number, and you call that number. They will talk to you about what we have to offer, how ABA works. He'll ask you for the front and back of your ID card, and then we check to see if you do or do not have coverage. If you have coverage for ABA therapy, we try to do whatever we can to set it up where we can bill for you and you don't have to fight with the insurance company every month to get your claims paid. For California residents, we recently did a series of insurance trainings all over the state, and you can click on the link below to watch pretty much the full presentation. It has a lot of information, how you can get your insurance company to comply with what they're supposed to do, understanding the networks, and many other valuable pieces of information.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are about to answer, or not answer, we're going to look at the question of the day and your answers. The question of the day was, what inflexibility issues does your child have? And you guys have written in a bunch of different things. Somebody who says getting dressed. Stop and think about all the sensory things and all the gross motor and the fine motor things that happen with getting dressed. When we teach adaptive skills and teach getting dressed, we need to be really careful that we don't feed into inflexibility issues by varying the circumstances. There are lots of kids who only want to wear one thing. They only want to get dressed in one way. They have to put, pant leg, the left leg first. Stop and think about it. it. If you ask most adults, do you put on both socks and then both shoes, or do you do it the other way? Everybody has a way that they're used to doing it, right? But the level of inflexibility varies. I know some people who only can put the left sock on first, and they are not on the spectrum. But there are a lot of things that go along with getting dressed. If when we're teaching getting dressed, we're mindful of that, and work towards generalization so that our kids get used to doing it in a lot of different circumstances that they might encounter in their lives, we can decrease those inflexibility issues. If the inflexibility issues are already there, we can work through systematic desensitization but one little thing at a time to decrease the anxiety that will come with breaking the inflexibility issues. Oh my goodness, somebody writes in and said, I've messed up my son's schedule his whole life, not on purpose, but it's just how life treated us. Sometimes he does really well. Other times it's the little things that set him off. Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you that you haven't messed up. It sounds like you've done your level best and that you dealt with things that came up. That, no blame here, no judgments. But if things are really difficult and there are specific things that set him off, great opportunity to have an FBA done, a functional behavior assessment, to see what's happening in the moment, where things are going off the rails, what might need to change. Maybe we need to do an antecedent modification. Maybe we need to do systematic desensitization to a specific sensory thing. But it's really hard for us sometimes in the moment to see the full picture. Much better to get an experienced BCBA, board certified behavior analyst, in to look at what's happening, to look at the behavior and help you to determine what is happening what the function of the different behaviors is. Look, if there are some things that I can't stand, right? And I'm sure you guys can relate to this too, that there are, nails on a chalkboard, I just can't do. And if somebody in my life was doing nails on a chalkboard over and over, I would be throwing tantrums. I would. And if I wasn't able to tell you, hey, I need you to stop that and here's why, it would make it very difficult for us, right? You would just look at me as somebody who's throwing a tantrum, but I'm reacting to the nails on the chalkboard. And I need the functional communications to be able to say to you, stop that. It's making me crazy. And I can't handle it. So we need to remember that when our kids are having an inflexibility issue, it's because something isn't working for them. And it may seem like a nothing to us, but it's a big deal to them. So we can get these things better. We really can work on flexibility, and we can work on sensory issues with systematic desensitization. Okay, another person says, and this is so fascinating to me because we get into specifics about where the flexibility issues are. Somebody says, giving his book or DVD to the librarian to check out, major meltdown. And it makes you wonder, what is it about that? Because there's clearly something in the moment that isn't working for them and figuring it out. Another person who says food, no meat, no veg, little fruit. He is so texturally sensitive. I hide things in sauce for his gluten-free pizza, but you can only hide so much. I know, isn't that true? You can only hide so much. But, we've had Dr. Adele Nadowski on the show before talking about textural sensitivities, and that one of the research things that she's talked about is moving very slowly, but depending on what the child's texture is. So if the child only can do crunchy or the child can only do smooth, that you make it as smooth as you need it to be, and then you change it incrementally, like the measure of a grain of sand, and that you stay on that level until they can handle it, and then you move to the very next level. Really, really small changes. It may take you 2 years, but eventually you get to the point where the child is able to eat the polar opposite texture of what they could eat. But the key is going slow, and you might need some help and support and doing that kind of intervention as well. Washing face and brushing teeth. Oh my goodness. My child, when I brush his face, you would think that I was murdering him. I don't know what the sensory, he hates to have his face covered. It's very disconcerting. He now can do it himself, so we're not having the issue, but if I ever have to wash his face, oh, it's just not a fun thing. Another person says, eating anything that is not a carb or sweet. I go to above and read the sneaking things in, right? Have you not seen the recipe where it's mostly broccoli in the brownie? Dr. Nadowski has also been on talking about how we can change the ratio. So if you're starting out making brownies and you stick a tablespoon of broccoli in it and the child doesn't notice, great. The next time you stick a tablespoon and a half of broccoli in and you keep adding and staying at the spot where you're working on it until they get to the point where it's more broccoli than it is brownie. I know it sounds ridiculous. It sounds disgusting. It sounds like it wouldn't work, except that research shows that moving in that way does work with our kids. Another person saying brushing teeth. We need to have a dentist come in and talk about that, how we can make that an easier thing. Another person who says all three of these things will be an issue in about 10 minutes. Washing face and brushing teeth. Showering, brushing teeth, and any change in his schedule sets him off. It's interesting that a lot of our kids love water, but showering, not so much. That showering is something that a lot of people will report and say until they're significantly older. But it's a different sensory experience. It really is. Might be interesting to try a shower head or try one of the shower heads that they can point it in different directions so that they have control. Interesting thing to consider. Another person who says, I've been changing things on purpose for years. He does really good now. The electric toothbrush was tough, but he knew I wouldn't give him back his old one. If you stick to your word and don't give in, it makes a huge difference. In some ways, I think he is more adaptable than non-autistic children. I have to say that if we move slowly, and we work on these flexibility issues very slowly. I don't believe in cold turkey personally, but if we move very slowly, I do think that that's where we arrive at children who are much more flexible than your run-of-the-mill child. I've shared before that after years of ABA therapy, we were at Disneyland, and my son was there with a bunch of friends who were not on the spectrum, and there was a ride that was closed, and one of the other kids who was a year older than my son, meltdown, full-on meltdown. And my son came over to me and said, doesn't he know it's not the end of the world? The ride will be here another time. Doesn't he know that? And I said, I think he does know that, but sometimes it doesn't feel like that. Anyway, I see the time. We are out of time. I want to show you a new episode today of The A Word. This is the wonderful documentary being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. We're about 9 or 10 weeks into therapy right now. We've gone back to the beginning of the series, and you can watch the entire series on their YouTube channel. But we're about 9 or 10 weeks into therapy, and we see that Jack Riley is reaping a lot of benefits. He is working on a lot of different things, and we're seeing improvement in his language, but he still has some real flexibility issues with food. And we're building rapport, not really taking it head on, starting to work with toys, that systematic desensitization, moving slower than molasses in January, going uphill. But we'll make some progress, and really progress is the name of the game. So take a look at this. This is The A Word, and when we come back, Nancy Allspot Jackson will be with us.
Pirate. Penguin. Is he gonna come out of the egg?
Eggs.
Egg. 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 Can we say g? Say egg. Egg. Good trying. Miss Jessica's here. Yay!
It's gonna be a fun day.
Yay! Hi, Miss Jessica.
Hi, Miss Jessica.
What's this? Baby. Baby. Baby? Who's this? Is this a mommy? Yeah? Who else is in here? Is this a daddy? Daddy? That's a daddy? Daddy. And a mommy. And a what? And a what? Say, and a baby. Does a baby go in here? Say, sit down. Say, sit down. Yeah, you gonna go inside? Whoa! Woo, you gonna fly in the sky? There, let's go. Up the stairs. Let's go sit down. Yeah, sit down. Ooh. Okay, take off. Bye. See you later. Right now we're working on functional pretend play, which involves having him play with toys appropriately. For instance, having an airplane and putting the people in the airplane and flying it appropriately, so that when he does go to preschool, because other kids are doing imaginative play too, creative play, so he would be able to play with the other kids as well, appropriately and functionally. So right now it's just a lot of imitation, but once you just model for him a couple times, he can play with it, no problem. So with the functional pretend play program, with the kitchen set and everything, it's really good for him, because since he has so many issues with feeding, he can play with the spoons, the forks, and not worry about having to actually feed himself anything. He can pretend to feed himself, feed me, feed the baby. There isn't an outcome where he has to eat anything at all. Look, go. You tried. Nice job. Very good. So, yeah, so having and handling fake food isn't a problem, but when it comes to actually seeing real food, he can totally tell the difference, and he just sometimes just refuses, or most of the time just doesn't even touch it, versus all these things, he has no problem. Cut. Good job. You want to peel the orange? What is this? Say orange. Here, peel it. There you go. Nice job. His mom has been having children shoot themselves, like brushing their teeth, jumping. And the other day, she showed me one where the kids were jumping. And he was watching it, and after that, he was actually jumping and imitating them too. And he actually got air, which we've been working on for a couple weeks already. When he sees the kids actually talking to him, he wants to do it even more.
So these are made by friends of yours?
Yeah, they posted them onto his website called Watch Me, Jack Riley.
And who came up with that idea?
That was my idea, because he likes to watch kids on TV. And he thinks it's all very funny. But we need to get them eating. And I think that will help him tremendously. Do you want to watch the kids jump now?
They're talking to you!
Do you want to watch the ABCs, or do you want to watch jumping again? ABCs or jumping? Jumping. You made that clear. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
It's a combination of some of those letters.
P, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Yay! Do you want to make
Who's that?
Body.
Yeah. And who's that over there?
Body.
No, who's that over there?
Daddy.
Yeah, that's Daddy. How about over there?
Jessica. I don't know my name. It's too hard.
Jessica. Yeah, but the hard ones are the ones he breaks out without problem.
Yeah, yellow.
We were playing with
Yellow
the
came out of nowhere. Yellow and Riley, yeah. Jack
We were playing with the dolls, and I named the baby, the mommy and the daddy, and he said Bommy.
Yeah, I think I'm getting the M now.
It's getting closer.
I have him say milk in the morning,
Not the start
and
word,
now I'm
no.
just starting with instead of, because if I say milk, he'll say ba.
Oh.
So if I say milk, he'll say ba.
Ba.
How old are you?
Daddy.
Daddy.
Yeah.
How old are you?
Ho ho.
How old?
Ho ho. Two.
Two.
What's your name? What's your name? Can you say Jack?
Riley.
Jack Riley.
Riley.
Riley. Riley.
That's clear.
Riley.
Can you say Jack Riley?
Tell Riley.
Yay!
Good. How old are you? How old are you?
How old are you?
4.
How old are you, Jack? Hey.
Jack.
He likes looking at you guys through this so much.
How old are you?
2.
Are you two?
Are you 468? No. How old is Jack? How old is Jack? Say, I'm 2.
I 2.
Yay! Good job.
I'm two. I'm two also.
Is Daddy 2?
I'm too many.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod.
And we're coming on Monday instead of Wednesday because Wednesday's Halloween and we've got a lot of stuff going on with our kids.
We do. And I think that you guys probably have a lot of stuff going on too.
That's right.
So, and we also have some really important stuff to talk about before Thursday happens. And we wanted people to have more opportunity to know about that. So.
Because we have Elaine Hall, Coach E, back here today. And she's got the big conference coming up on Thursday. We want to talk about that. And she's got some delightful young guests with her that we're going to be bringing on in the next segment.
Yes, very excited about that.
Yes.
And I'm glad you guys are tuned in. But we talked a little bit last Wednesday about the Ann Coulter tweet, as it were.
Yes.
Like to call it something else, but the tweet. And I know you brought this to my attention, and I was really touched by it. An open letter to Ann Coulter, written by John Franklin Stevens. Do you want to read it for us?
Yeah, I'd really like to read it because I think it's so powerful.
Yes.
And it really touched me because, as I discussed last week, I had a younger brother with Down syndrome, David, who was a blessing to our family. There were times that it was very difficult, and I shared a very painful experience where someone, when I was very young, called my brother a retard, and it wounded me, and that shame stayed with me for a long, long time. So words can be very damaging.
Absolutely.
And words can have a very, very negative effect. So for people like Ann Coulter that think that they can be flippant and funny saying that, it's not okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to read, this is from the Special Olympics athlete and global messenger John Franklin Stevens, who has Down syndrome. And he wrote, "Dear Ann Coulter, come on, Miss Coulter, you aren't dumb and you aren't shallow. So why are you continually using a word like the R word as an insult? I'm a 30-year-old man with Down syndrome who has struggled with the public's perception that an intellectual disability means that I am dumb and shallow. I am not either of those things, but I do process information more slowly than the rest of you. In fact, it has taken me all day to figure out how to respond to your use of the R word last night. I thought first of asking whether you meant to describe the president as someone who was bullied as a child by people like you, but rose above it to find a way to succeed in life, as many of my Special Olympians have. Then I wondered if you meant to describe him as someone who has to struggle to be thoughtful about every thing he says, as everyone else races from one snarky soundbite to the next. Finally, I have wondered if you meant to degrade him as someone who is likely to receive bad health care, live in low-grade housing with very little income, and still manages to see life as a wonderful gift. Because, Ms. Coulter, that is who we are, and much, much more. After I saw your tweet, I realized you just wanted to belittle the president by linking him to people like me. You assumed that people would understand and accept that being linked to someone like me is an insult, and you assumed you could get away with it and still appear on TV. I have to wonder if you considered other hateful words but recoiled from the backlash, and we talked about that too.
Yeah, we did.
Well, Ms. Coulter, you and society need to learn that being compared to people like me should be considered a badge of honor. No one overcomes more than we do and still lives life so much. Come join us at Special Olympics. See if you can walk away with your heart unchanged. A friend you haven't met yet, John Franklin Stevens, Global Messenger, Special Olympics, Virginia.
A beautiful letter. I don't think anybody could have said it better. Absolutely incredible. And I want to remind everybody, you know, I mean, we are continuing to talk about it here because we don't think that Ann Coulter would ever stop by and watch our show.
Right.
But
we put her on extinction. You put her on extinction. Her bad behavior. She's looking for attention. So we don't want to give her attention, but we do want to give attention to this issue.
Yes.
I don't care if we ever say her name again, but I believe what John Franklin Stevens wrote is so beautiful.
Absolutely.
And that she did the opposite of what she thought, and that is, if she, as he said, if President Obama is being compared to people like him, someone who has had to overcome so much, yet still believe in that they can have a wonderful, beautiful life, then she did President Obama a service.
Right. And only served to belittle herself. But I want to remind everyone that as we've put her on extinction, do not buy her book. And if you see her on television, turn it off.
Yes,
that's how we put her behavior on extinction.
That's
right. Okay, another interesting study that we didn't have time to get to on Wednesday, talking about the statistics on children on the spectrum wandering.
Do you have a Kleenex?
I do have a Kleenex. Somewhere. I know.
That
we get emotional here. We keep it real here.
We keep it real. I mean,
I do have
and also the photo of him reminded so much of my brother David.
Absolutely.
You know, who passed away at the age of 38.
Here we go, tissues.
And that really touched me. Really touched me. I think he's a real American hero.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not to belittle that, but we do need to talk about the wandering because we need to get our guests in here. So a new study came out, and they were talking about elopement and wandering.
Right.
And I think we all know these numbers fairly well. But they did a study, and this time what they did was compare the children on the autism spectrum to their neurotypically developing siblings, and what they discovered that 49% of children with an autism spectrum disorder have wandered off, bolted, or eloped at least once after the age of 4. 26% of them went missing long enough to cause serious concerns, and that is compared to only 13% of the siblings that had wandered off after the age of 4.
Right.
And I think, according to the study, children who elope face life-threatening circumstances, with 65% of them having close calls with traffic, 24% facing danger of drowning. I mentioned to you right before we started that I got into a conversation with someone this weekend, and we were talking about the importance of getting ABA and getting it across the board for everyone, and making insurance companies have to be accountable, and that it not be this state has it, that state has. We need a federal mandate. And the person was saying, well, you know, and all these different reasons why not to. And I said, you know, this is a little ridiculous to me, because if this were pediatric cancer, we wouldn't be having this discussion. And why is that? And the person responded and said, because this is not life-threatening. Autism is not life-threatening.
Maybe
I was offended.
Maybe you should show her all the children that have died from wandering in swimming pools, freezing to death, being hit by cars, being abducted. And I can tell you that my own child, Wyatt, we had a lot of issues with this. Once at LaGuardia, he almost rushed out into oncoming traffic. He almost went out onto the freeway, the 101 freeway, running very fast and far from our home. And we actually ended up doing social stories with him, and he actually ended up writing a book called Sammy Learns to Listen that really made an impression upon him about not running ahead. Wandering is a big problem. At ACT Today, we have a safety fund where we will provide fencing for families that have children that wander, tracking devices, and I urge all of you to not see this as something that is this is a life or death issue for our children.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have people who are writing in, and I want to make sure that we acknowledge that somebody has written in about inflexibility at potty time. There is structure required for success, including who the chaperone is, the order of activities. We will get to this and more tomorrow, but we have a very special guest that we want to bring. I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledged. I saw what you wrote in about potty time and flexibility.
All right.
We're talking about inflexibility and flexibility all week long.
Oh, great.
So we will get to this tomorrow. But we're going to take a break, and we're going to bring in Elaine Hall, and I think we're having Ezra come in first.
We are having, no, I believe it's going to be Rachel first.
Oh, okay.
Rachel Tracosas.
No, Ezra's first.
Oh, Ezra's first. Okay, Ezra's first. Sorry. And Ezra, I met him. He's a delightful young man.
Yes.
And his animation inspired a children's book called Emergency. So I can't wait for him to share that with us.
And you're going to be here with them. I'm going to step outside.
Okay.
But I'll be back for the last segment.
Okay.
But stick with us. We're going to be back with Elaine Hall and Ezra. And I don't know that I know Ezra's last name.
Ezra's last name is Fields-Meyer. Ezra Fields-Meyer.
After these messages, stick with us. Happy Halloween. We're here today to show you some really easy, healthy recipes that you can make for Halloween with your children. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is make this lovely cauliflower brain. And the ingredients that we need for this, we need some sort of a platter. We need a cauliflower, and we have an organic cauliflower here. Emily, take it away for us.
We have some natural guacamole, some organic salsa, some potato chips, and then some pull-string licorice.
Okay, so those are all the things that we're going to need. Plus, we have a very sharp knife and a spoon. So using the knife and preparing the cauliflower can be something you can do beforehand, before you call the children in, depending on their ages and their skill level. All right, so we're going to pull the leaves off of this and put the pieces away. You can compost them if you do that sort of thing, or just throw them away. You want to remove all of the green. This part might be fun, actually, for the kids. It's a difficult one. I'm just going to slice this part off and pull some more of the green out because there's no green on the brain. But one key thing here is that we want to slice off just the tip here so that it's going to sit flat like a brain. And this is the point where the kids can be really helpful. If you have it already measured, and that's about 1.5 cups of salsa, whatever size platter you're using, and you can have them dump it right on the plate, and that's a pretty enjoyable part of it. Swish it around. Okay, we can put the cauliflower right in the middle of it. And you can see how easy this is. Super duper easy, has big impact if you're doing a Halloween party, but it's also having fun with your veggies, something that we want to do with the kids. And we can take the chips. I'm going to let you do that with the licorice while I throw some chips around the plate. And these, by the way, are organic, oven-fried, no-salt chips. You can use whatever you want, but we want to keep this as healthy as possible. And she's laying those laces around so they look like the veins of the brain that has gone bad. You can see it just takes a couple of minutes and you end up with this lovely, delicious, healthy brain for the children to eat. And it looks good on the table too. Tastes good too, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Right now, what we're gonna make are hot dog mummies. These are really fun. You can see our finished ones over here. We only need a few things for this. We need some hot dogs. Right now we're using organic chicken hot dogs that are fully cooked. which is a wonderful thing. We have some mustard. We have some all-natural crescent dough on a plastic sheet that we can roll it out on. We have our rolling pin. I have a little bit of coconut flour, but you can use any kind of flour that you want. This just smells awesome. And we have a sharp knife. So this is the part of the project that we want to be careful around kids. You could use a duller knife or a plastic knife, or do this part yourself when the kids aren't around. But if you open up your refrigerated dough and you roll it out, just throw a little bit of coconut flour onto it so that it doesn't stick as much to the rolling pin, and roll it out so that you can't see the lines anymore. Oh, it smells good, doesn't it? I love the smell of coconut flour. And it bakes really a wonderful scent too into the whole house. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because the great thing about this recipe is that it's very forgiving. If the dough breaks when you're wrapping up the hot dog, it's okay, because the mummy can have lots of different bandages. All right, we're gonna go and just cut through this dough. And they can be different width strips, it doesn't really matter. And you really could do this with a plastic knife. I want to mention too that if you have dietary considerations and you need something to be gluten-free, I did this the other day for my son with a gluten-free pizza crust mix, and it worked the same. I just had to be really careful. I thought that the key to it all was getting the dough really dry while I was rolling it out and cutting it out, and then wetting it before I wrapped it around the dry hot dogs. Okay, so I'm gonna take one hot dog and Emily's gonna take another, and part of the fun of this is that you want to make like a little hat, so that there is a place later on to put eyeballs made out of mustard. So you can wrap it around the head, make like a turban for your mummy, and then start to, and you see it broke. Doesn't matter, because it's dough and it can be a separate bandage. It's not a problem. You just wrap it around. The kids love this because they know they're going to get to eat it later on. It's very healthy and a quick dinner that makes it really fun. You just slather it on. And then we're going to bake it for about 12 to 14 minutes at a 350-degree oven. See, easy. He's got a head. Oh, yours is so much prettier than mine. She's Martha Stewart. Okay, so we're gonna put that into the oven. We don't need to do anything else. And I put it on some parchment paper so that I don't have to use any kind of spray or oil or anything and add ingredients. We're gonna stick it into the oven, and through magic, this is what they look like when they're done. And the other fun element of this is that then you take the mustard and you can give it to the kids for them to put eyes right on, and Emily's going to do that. Awesome. And if you want bloody mummies, you can include ketchup. So, those are big eyes. The other day when I did this with my son, he wanted to put sliced olives on top of the mustard for eyes. But you can see that these are cute, they're tasty, and really healthy. Those are mummy hot dogs. And you can write Happy Halloween in mustard if you're Martha Stewart. Very good.
All right, we're gonna move on to some spooky spider cupcakes. So what you're gonna wanna do is bake a box of regular brand cupcake, or they have gluten-free, sugar-free options as well.
Awesome ones, yes.
Which are great. I pre-made these cupcakes standard. Cupcake rules apply. You'll need some eggs and some oil and water. But we've gone ahead and done that already. So what you wanna do is take some chocolate frosting, and we're gonna frost our cupcake with a thin layer. Doesn't need to be too crazy.
Ooh.
Yes.
Smells good too.
Does smell good. And then we brought some blue sprinkles, and these are naturally colored with vegetable juice, correct?
Vegetable juice, blue.
Which is fantastic. And so these are blue, and then we're gonna just sprinkle the top of our cupcake here.
Awesome.
For eyes, I just got some jelly beans here of different colors. You can use M&Ms or whatever you're more comfortable using. And all you want to do is split your jelly bean in half. So there's your eyeball, Shannon.
Awesome.
I'll have orange eyes on mine. And then you're just going to place them in the front of the cupcake. And then for their little scary legs, we've got some pull and peel Twizzler here, but they also sell natural candy rope, which you can use as well. So then we're just going to pull off our little legs, and the cupcakes are soft enough where you can actually stick the little leg right into it.
And you're just jamming them down?
Just jam them in there.
Alrighty. Ooh, look at that leg.
And this is a good time to teach your kids about bugs and that they have 8 legs.
That's a great thing to add to the lesson. And you know, there's lots of different other things too. Like I have frosting on my hands, and sometimes kids don't like that. It's a flexibility issue. But this is a wonderful way in which to work on those things so that, you know, they can take those skills with them later on. If it's at home and it's a little bit of frosting with you, it's a little bit more reinforcing because it tastes good than if they're on the schoolyard and it's mud and things like that.
And then once you're done, you have your little 8-legged friend.
Mine looks like he needs a haircut, but but they're very fun and they taste good, and the kids will enjoy working on these.
That's right, and they're super cute.
They are. And that's Halloween. Healthy and fast and fun.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And I am here with 2 very special guests. Coach Elaine Hall, better known as Coach E, creator, founder of the Miracle Project, and you're just doing such amazing work in our community with the Miracle Project, and you have this fantastic conference coming on, which is Thursday.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here to share about the conference. We've at Vista Del Mar on Thursday, November 1st. We have an extraordinary lineup of people that will be rethinking autism.
Rethinking autism.
Rethinking autism.
And you're going to tell us a little bit more about the guest in a short while. But first, I want to ask you who this special young man is sitting next to you, who is actually going to be at the conference.
Very excited to have a panel of young adults and teens, and who are also performers as singers and dancers, part of the Miracle Project, part of Vista Del Mar and Nescadol, and I'm very proud to introduce Ezra Fields-Meyer.
Here I am. It's me, Ezra.
Hi, Ezra. It's so nice to have you here. You're a multi. You know what they call you now? A multi-hyphenate, because you do so many different things. You're a artist, right?
Artist and an animator. And a children's book author.
Right.
And a singer. Yeah, I know.
Okay. And you were part of the Miracle Project with Coach E.
I know, and I did a really good job.
Okay. And this year you're going to be at this conference, and what are some of the things you're going to be talking about?
Talking about how I was a good singer from the last 2 years.
Right.
And about my animations.
Okay. And how did you get started doing animation?
I first started doing it when I was 12.
And you're now?
16.
16, okay. And well, Ezra, you started drawing even before you were 12, right?
I know. I started drawing a lot of pictures.
That's right, because even at the Miracle Project you were drawing.
Yeah, I know. And I did this drawing of this thing on my shirt.
What is that?
It's a drawing of the MNN logo.
Do you want to talk about what MNN is?
Yeah.
Miracle News Network.
Okay. And what is the Miracle News Network?
It's a TV channel we have in those plays.
Okay. So last season at Vista Del Mar, we wrote an original play.
Yeah.
And what role did you play in that?
Ted Grunch, and I was along with Spencer, who was Ebenezer, and me and Spencer would go, harumph!
Hey, I think you can add to that list comedian.
I was a comedian too, yeah. And I also me and Spencer had my own song.
Okay, what was the song?
Called The Critic's Choice, which is what is with or today. There's no feeling, no heart, no soul. Splatter some paint on canvas. You call it art rubbish. That's a really long song. But
Okay, that's a good little sample there that we got.
They helped write the song too.
And
you actually helped write that song?
Yeah. And do you have any questions for me about my animations?
Yes, I do. I was going to get to that. You beat me to it.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of your animation.
One of my animations I did was Alphabet House, which became the children's book Emergency.
Can you show that? Can you hold it up? Turn it around.
Yeah, this is the book Emergency.
Okay.
It's about the letter E who gets injured.
Oh, clever.
Open it
so
up.
Tell us what happens in the book.
The letter E gets injured, and she gets replaced by the letter O, and E gets badly injured and ends up in the hospital. So all the words that have E in them, E's become O's.
Oh, so give him an example. Read one of them.
Yeah,
like
read
what
one of them for us.
And one of them says,
And you did these drawings?
one of them says, isochrome and Elm Street and Roosevelt Elementary School, the O Show, and ABC Now's Social Bulletin.
That is so clever. So instead of entertainment tonight, it would be entertainment tonight.
That's
There
right.
you go.
Yeah.
That's you got it. You
I'm
got
a little
it.
slow on the uptake. But,
Yeah.
now, can I just... You did these drawings?
Well,
I did, yeah.
tell who did all the drawings that you were
A
inspired
children's
by.
book author and illustrator named Tom Lichtenheld.
Okay.
Saw Ezra's animation that he
Yes.
did about emergency,
Yeah.
Okay.
and was inspired by Ezra's animation.
Okay.
So that they did this jointly, right?
Yeah, and
It was reviewed by the New York Times.
Oh my gosh.
do you want to know any other animations I did?
Yes, I'd like to know some
I
of the
also
Oh,
other
one I
ones.
did, which was a parody of The Simpsons called The Simpsons.
The Simpsons?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Oh, it is on YouTube? We can look it up?
Yep, and
Okay.
they also made some of them based on poems, and also did one of them that was based on some stories that my dad told me when I was younger called Three Purple Alligators. And
So you got a lot of your creativity from your dad.
he also created one about a robot who liked dancing.
Now, your dad wrote a book.
I know.
What was it about,
Tell us about
Ezra?
It was about me when I was 3 and until I was 13.
Yes.
About how I really had autism.
Yeah.
And I still have autism. I like having it my whole life.
You've had it your whole life.
Yeah.
But you haven't let that stop you, obviously, from doing some extraordinary things, Ezra.
I know, and my first animated video I did was the 12 Balls, which I did at CHAP, Children's Healing Art Project, a place where kids with special needs do art and animation. It's in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, it sounds like you come from an extraordinary family. You have two brothers. What are their names?
Ami and Noam.
Ami and Noam.
And I also have a mom whose name is Sean, and Rabbi Sean Fields-Meyer. She's a rabbi.
She's a rabbi?
Yeah, she is.
Talk about an incredibly accomplished family you come from.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you are a very lucky young man. And I want to ask Coach E, why did you decide to include individuals and young people like Ezra as part of this conference?
Well, I really feel that young people like Ezra are the true experts, because when we're rethinking autism, we really need to come from the talents, the abilities, the extraordinary gifts that my friends like Ezra have, and that they can be educating therapists, and teachers, parents, grandparents on really what autism is from the inside out. So Ezra is going to be talking about his gifts and his talents and his friends, as well as performing, and the panel will get a real insight into our true realities of autism.
I think that's so important. And Ezra, I think it takes, first of all, you're very brave to be able to get up in front of a lot of people and talk about yourself and talk about some of your experiences. And I think it's just a great thing that you're sharing this.
I know. And I also love animated movies that I've seen. Many of them I've seen. Some of them I like include Toy Story, The Lion King, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, Shrek, and many more.
Do you get a lot of your inspiration from the movies that you see?
Yeah.
And Ezra knows the dates that movies come out. He knows when movies are coming out, right? You know all the dates and everything.
Right. So Ezra, you're 16 now, and you've accomplished so much already.
Yeah.
What would you still like to accomplish? You've got a long life ahead of you.
Creating animations, and right now in animation, I'm creating a website about me.
Okay. And what's that going to be called?
I don't know yet, but it's going to be a good one, and I'm working on it on Adobe Dreamweaver, but I was originally going to do it on Muse, but Muse was too difficult, so I found an easier one, Dreamweaver.
Well, you know what? I probably could not even figure out Dreamweaver if I studied it for a week.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think your abilities are really impressing me. I mean, your accomplishments are amazing, and I want to congratulate you on everything you've done. And you know what I'd like to do?
What?
I'd like to have you and your dad back to talk with me and Shannon.
Yeah, and
What do you think about that? Having Dad come in, having your dad.
That sounds great. Yeah.
What do you think your dad would like to talk about?
I don't know. Maybe like to talk about like about me and how he wrote a book about me and about stuff I did in my life.
Yes. And
Ezra's also had his bar mitzvah. And
Yeah.
He's part of our confirmation class in Nescadol, and he's a lead in a lot of the plays that we do at Nescadol.
Yeah.
And
so you have a very, very busy life.
I do, yeah. And
So Tom's book also talks about all the adventures that he's had with Ezra and how, well, really the joys of having a son
With
just
autism,
quite as extraordinary as you
with
are.
gifts, with many gifts, and I think, and you show everyone just how gifted young people with autism can be.
Yep.
And I want to thank you for coming today, Ezra. We'll have you back with your dad.
Yeah.
And Elaine, we're going to bring on another guest, another remarkable young lady, Rachel Tracosas.
Yes, Rachel Tracosas will be coming.
She'll be coming. So Ezra, we're going to say goodbye for now.
Yeah.
And we're going to have you back with your dad soon. You know, in the next couple of months.
Will you call him? Will you call him about it?
Absolutely.
Will you email him too?
You think I'll email him or text him? What's the best way?
You can call him about it or text him.
So many different ways to get in
email
touch
him
now.
too.
And I bet you know all of them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ezra, thank you. You're so talented. Coach E, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll come back with Rachel.
Fantastic.
Hey.
Thank you.
Currently, in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism, my beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're gonna take the chickens. But things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Granpichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
Second.
You are a smart cookie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
We are extremely grateful for the amazing job CARD has done in helping our daughter. Our daughter today, just in 4 months, I think is a totally different child than when she started with CARD. I kind of see it as, it seems like her brain in a way was asleep, and now that we've gotten so many services, we've seen her wake up.
Did you have some glasses?
Recovery is possible if you take the right steps, if you're willing to put in all the hard work. And 7.5 years, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's worth every little bit, and CARD's been there with us every step of the way.
I have 2 children with autism. I can't imagine a day without CARD or the therapists. They've been so instrumental in helping us with our kids and shaping their lives and helping us help them.
Thank you, Christina Big Alex.
Thank you, Jackie and Mariana.
We've tried other things before ABA, but the most beneficial thing has been ABA services, and I'd be the first person to tell any newly diagnosed family that you have to contact an ABA provider, and if you're lucky enough to have CARD, you're very blessed.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable and recovery from autism is possible.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And we have as our guests today some very special people. Elaine Hall, better known as Coach E, the founder of the Miracle Project. And with Elaine is a very special young lady, Rachel Tracosas. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you for having me on the show today.
You are welcome. Yeah, you can look at me, Rachel. You don't have to look at the camera. We're just chatting, having a nice little talk. We just had Ezra on, who's a friend of yours, no doubt. And Coach Elaine, can you tell us once again about this special panel of young people you have on the spectrum and what the purpose of that is?
Sure.
For your conference on Thursday at Vista Del Mar Family Services, is that correct?
Yes,
okay.
yes. Part of what I do, which I'm so gratitude to do, is I direct the Vista Inspire program.
Vista Inspire.
Which is a program that includes the Miracle Project, as well as music composition, as well as Nesgadol, which is our bar and bat mitzvah and confirmation program, and after-school enrichment for children, teens, and young adults with autism.
Wonderful.
And
now,
one of our fabulous representatives of all of these things is Rachel Tracosas.
So you represent all of that.
Definitely.
So you had your bat mitzvah?
I had it last year on my 16th birthday.
Oh, how wonderful. What was that like, Rachel?
It was amazing because I had my friends and family and Coach E and her staff there to support me on that day.
That must have been such a special day for you.
It really was.
And Coach E, you said that Rachel's a member of the Inspire program?
Yes, Rachel is one of the leaders of our Inspired Teen program. And our Inspired Teen, will you tell what the
Tell us what you do.
Okay, so basically the Inspired Teens program is a program for kids from the ages of 13 to 19, and we help fundraise for the Miracle Project shows that we do every year, and it's just a great program. They take in kids of all disabilities and they help them out, and it's just an amazing program for siblings to bond and reconnect with each other.
Well, it sounds like you're bringing a lot of your talents out into the world.
Definitely.
And as you said, Elaine, it's so important to see that our young people on the spectrum are capable of giving back their gifts.
Yes, we've been, well, what did we do last Monday? So
last Monday we volunteered at the Westside Food Bank, and we helped prepare boxes of canned goods and all that stuff, and then they shipped them out to OPCC and other places to help out the community.
That's great. That's great. That must make you feel so good to help other people.
It really does.
Yeah.
And between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we went to the beach and we cleaned up the beach. So really our kids, our teens, our young adults are giving back. So it's so often, so much is given to. And this way, well, first comes self-acceptance, then comes self-awareness, and self-advocacy, and then activism. And that's what our teens and young adults do. They are active in the community, making a change through the Vista Inspired Teen program in terms of educating others, and then also making a change in the world by performing at senior centers and working with Heal the Bay, cleaning up the beach, and then like what you did last week with the food bank.
Definitely.
So, and Rachel is pretty amazing because I always think of her as a producer and a PR person, right? Because what did you do last year with one of our fundraisers?
Well, I thought of an idea called the Pampered Chef, and we raised, I think, $45,000 for the show to beat the Odyssey Theater for the lights and all that, because they hate to say, but they cost a lot of money.
Hey, do you want to come work with me at Act Today? I could use somebody like you.
Okay.
That's 4 to 5,000. So 4 to 5,000. Yeah.
4 to 5,000. Hey, that is nothing to sneeze at in this economy.
It was Rachel's idea.
What an accomplishment, Rachel. Congratulations. Elaine, you seem to be showing, you are showing the public that our children on the spectrum, our young people on the spectrum, aren't to be thought of as having disabilities, but abilities and talent. That seems to be a passion of yours. Do you really feel that we don't focus on that enough?
I think with all of us, we tend to look at what's wrong with with ourselves, and to be able to focus on what everyone can do rather than what they can't do. I mean, using everyone's resources to bring out the best in everyone, that's what we focus on. And Rachel has so many gifts. The other thing Rachel's so extraordinary with is she has an intuition and is always able to help, and always knows when someone needs help and support. And I think so many of our friends with autism and other different abilities, it's up to us to neurotypicals, whatever that means, to find what is the heart and soul and passion of each individual, and then provide the opportunity, environment to bring that forth.
It sounds like you're really compassionate, Rachel.
Definitely.
And you like to help. And I bet you've helped a lot of other younger people on the autism spectrum, haven't you?
I've helped out Coach E's amazing and extraordinary son, Neil Katz, who is nonverbal, and I've helped out a lot of other kids in our Naskadal Jewish learning classes every Monday.
Okay. Now, Coach E, how can other parents can access this program? Can you just tell us about that? Is it open to the public?
Yes, we do have classes open to the public. We're just starting classes now for 4 to 6-year-olds. 7 to 9-year-olds, 10 to 13, and then 13 and up. And we go to 22. We have classes in music, dance, acting, religious education program, confirmation program, which is a real social, everything is social skills.
Did you do that, Rachel?
Yeah.
You did the confirmation program?
I'm still involved in it.
Okay, great.
And the friends you've made, too. Talk about the friends you've made here.
Okay, one of them is my friend Wyatt, and we've just worked together in the acting business that Coach E
I think I've met
created.
Wyatt.
And Rachel's performed at all kinds of events.
Yes.
And we did Autism Speaks walks, and the conference coming up on Thursday, which I will be in, and then just a lot of conferences in the past we've done.
Because one of the things too is we kind of debunk the myth that people with autism don't show emotion, aren't compassionate, don't have empathy. I find that my friends with autism, and I love hanging out with my friends with autism. I find them to be the most compassionate, sensitive, extraordinarily just sensitive and giving, loving people that I've ever known. And it's really a matter of us really tuning into them and letting people like Rachel shine and give her gifts to the world.
Now, what would you like to do? You've also, like Ezra, you've accomplished so much at such a young age. Do you think about what you'd like to do in the future, and maybe what kind of career you'd like to have?
Yes, I would.
Okay, what would you like to do?
Either a teaching, because I've worked at school, and I am currently working at school with younger kids, like preschoolers, so either that or working with animals. That's really my passion.
Okay.
And Rachel's sensitivity, she's also, you've talked sometimes about being bullied and when kids aren't nice to you.
Right.
So I think she can really, do you want to share a little bit about that?
Not really, but one of the things I wanted to share is my amazing friend Wyatt and his mom created this quote that says, "Autism is awesomeism," and it really is, because it's something to be proud of. Not something, because a lot of people misunderstand what autism is. It's an amazing and fantastic disability, and it makes you special in your own and unique way.
Well, you proved that, Rachel.
Thank you.
And you are educating the people that are watching today and showing that. And young people like you and Ezra are helping everyone understand that autism comes with some great gifts and great talents. And I want to thank you for joining us today. I know you're going to just have an awesome conference. And I know one lady here is going to be very proud of you and Ezra, and is very proud of you.
She definitely is.
And I just want to mention that you are being honored. Can you tell us about that?
Well, it's been an exciting month, and we were honored in New York for the Genius of Autism.
Yes.
And then also Los Angeles Magazine recently nominated me as one of the 50 inspiring women of Los Angeles.
That's amazing.
Which is kind of exciting.
Isn't that great, Rachel?
Really
and I can't think of anybody that deserves it more. Can you?
Thank you.
No, not really.
No, she deserves that.
Definitely.
Very honored. And then JCA Shalom, Camp JCA Shalom is having their gala on December 2nd, and I'm very honored to be part of that. And I guess the most important thing with receiving these is it brings an awareness of autism, and it gives me the opportunity to voice just how extraordinary people with autism are, and how, because of the visibility that I'm blessed to get these days, I can be a voice to show that, just like Rachel said, that people with autism are changing the world, and changing the world for better. And people like you and Shannon and Act Today and CARD are just helping make a difference in so many people's lives. And I just feel very blessed to be able to voice that, to show that autism is awesomeism, and it's really about us listening to those that don't speak and being a voice for those.
Well, thank you for changing the perceptions of everybody out there that is listening, and many people are. And thank you, Rachel, and good luck, Coach E.
Thank you.
And I just, congratulations on all your honors. We're thrilled for you. Shannon and I are thrilled for you. Okay, so I will be back with Shannon to say goodbye and go over a few things. We've got our biggest fundraiser of the year coming up.
How exciting.
Yes, on Saturday. So Denim and Diamonds for Autism. So we'll be talking about that a little bit. And
wonderful.
Good luck at the conference.
The conference is
once again
November 1st. At Vista Del Mar. For information, you can go to vistadelmar.org. We have Peter Bell from Autism Speaks will be coming, as well as Dr. Pat Levitt will be sharing about the neurobiology, the brain, and autism, as well as Diana O'Brien, who has created an entire technology and internet access called Impact Autism, and Diana O'Brien will be sharing her insights, and also we'll be honoring Charlie Beck from Los Angeles Police Department and Chantel Sisakira. So it's going to be an amazing conference, a great opportunity to network and meet this incredible panel. They'll be talking about what therapies work for them, what therapies don't, what teachers are good. It's for educators, parents, professionals, grandparents to learn more about autism from the true experts, those with autism.
Also, if I can add something, our amazing Fly Singer group will be the big singing group there, so it's amazing. It's great for moms that want to bring their younger kids. They can hear what we like to do and maybe want to get involved in our Fly group that Diane Isaacs and Elaine Hall and Karen Howard created.
Okay, great. That's going to be fun. Thanks for adding that. Yes.
Isn't she great?
I know.
She's my PR person.
I'm telling you, I see some big jumps in the future. But you better hire her first before I, maybe can hire her for Act Today. So it might be a bidding war over that.
There you go.
Okay, so we'll be back soon with Shannon. Thanks for joining us.
Today has partnered with Cox Communications to bring Inclusion Films to San Diego. Led by Joey Travolta, Inclusion Films teaches filmmaking to developmentally disabled children.
It's a practical film camp where we take them through the process of making a film. And each group, we split them into 3 groups, and they're each responsible for making a short film. together as a group. How many people like animation in this group?
This is a wonderful opportunity for children to build their self-confidence, to develop new friendships, and it's also an opportunity for their siblings to come and to enjoy the company of other peers in this really wonderful, fun setting.
Okay, so you know what time it is?
Cox Communications has years of supporting the community. We believe in giving back to the communities we serve, and military, youth, and education are our three pillars. And so this really matched up with everything that we're about and what we're trying to do to give back to the San Diego community. And so we were thrilled to meet up with ACT Today and Inclusion Films and to have this wonderful synergy. Three organizations really trying to move towards a common cause.
All right, we ready?
There you go, got it. Mark.
Okay, you'll be talking to me, okay? So tell me your name, say my name is. In the past, we've done the Junior Apprentice, which was a takeoff on The Apprentice, the Really Late Show, which is a takeoff on The Tonight Show. And this year, we're doing a combination of 60 Minutes and Entertainment Tonight called 30 Minutes Tonight.
Okay, good. So now you understand what an improv is. You guys get the idea what an improv is? To go with the flow of something, especially in the action.
My son Elijah, he's into movies and he's into music, and so this program might bring out his particular skills.
Amazing. You're like a professional animator.
Every single person here we've met has been so kind, loving, and caring. They've given Nicholas the opportunity to be himself and be around people who have the same passion and interest as he does.
What is it you learned with Ultimate? What did you learn?
That filming is kind of tricky.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate. And when they collaborate, they come up with a product that everybody can see. They're a part of something. They become a community, they become a family. When you make a film, you really become a family.
Are we having fun at film camp? Yeah! You know, we are close to Hollywood. Yes. And Hollywood is always looking for young talent like this.
Autism is an epidemic, and it is not going to get any better anytime soon. Families are struggling to pay the bills, to put food on their table, let alone provide services for their children. And ACT Today is a vehicle of support for these families by helping them get access to life supports that they couldn't otherwise have.
My experience in film camp has been great, and I just really love how all you guys decided to bring us together.
What I learned here, I learned to animate, how to operate the plot board. I learned about the animation and filming and making friends.
Making new friends and acting.
Meeting new friends. You can be anything you want to be.
Well, back. That was really two incredible interviews with three people that you just did. Really inspirational. So glad I got to see that.
Hey, what great guests. And
Absolutely.
If that doesn't prove that our young people on the autism spectrum have gifts and talents, I mean, I don't know what does. See for yourself.
Exactly. We have to also mention, somebody wrote in, because we were talking about the wandering study earlier, and somebody wrote in and said that they got a special device to track their child if they were lost, and their school would not allow them to keep it on while they were at school. They were afraid. The quote is, they were afraid we'd use the device to spy on a nonverbal autism classroom. How ridiculous. Of course, their fear that we were listening in made us wonder if we should be listening in. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow during the show, but right now we've only got a couple of minutes left, and we wanted to make sure that everybody knew there's a big event happening on Saturday.
Big event, our 7th annual Denim and Diamonds for Autism, which is our largest fundraising event. It's Saturday, November 3rd at Calamigos Ranch in
That is
Malibu,
this
California.
Saturday.
This Saturday. There's still some tickets left. They can go on Denim and Diamonds for Autism, all one word, .com, or the Act Today website, act-today.org. And we are honoring Joe Mantegna, the great actor from Criminal Minds and so many other things, who's done so many things for Act Today, especially for our military children. And Steve Malden, who is the general manager of KCBS and KCAL, and has put on Stephanie's Day, an amazing resource fair here in LA and in Houston, and done a lot to educate.
So both of these men, dads
of daughters with autism.
Yes.
And then we have many celebrities
It
coming.
is star-studded.
Yeah, maybe Emily could put up some of the shots of some of the, look at all that. The Hoff, David Hasselhoff. Thomas Gibson, star of Criminal Minds. Vivica Fox there. Tom Bergeron, Gene Smart, Bonnie Hunt. And Brian McKnight is doing a little mini concert for us.
Exciting.
So it is going to be a great night, and it's a night where we get to dress up and be glamorous, because a lot of our days here spent at Act Today are not so glamorous. They're in our crowded little office, going through grants, trying to raise money, trying to help kids.
And because that's really what it is all about.
That's really what it's all about.
Star-studded and there's glitz and glam, but it's about raising money.
Raising money for children and families that do not have access or cannot afford treatment. And I always say that's like 90% of people who have children with autism.
Absolutely.
It's very difficult.
And there's only 2 days left now if somebody wants to apply for a grant. There's only 2 days left.
Yes, they can go on our website and go under the grant application and apply, because we're getting ready to do our third quarter grants.
Absolutely. So www.act-today.org.
Right.
But you only have until Wednesday.
Yes,
Wednesday's the last day to do that. And then on Saturday, you'll make the money to make sure that more people have those grants, which is incredible.
That's correct.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here with me.
You'll be here tomorrow.
I
won't see you for another
couple of weeks.
But
we'll be back.
Okay, great.
Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And remember that it's not just a disability, it's an opportunity to do some wonderful things. If you have a child with autism, or if you have autism, there's so many gifts and great things that come with it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Bye-bye for now.